Let me just ask you something. What if I told you the busiest person in the market is almost always the one who makes the least money? Seriously, just picture it. You've got one person, heart absolutely pounding, glued to three glowing screens, reacting to every little flicker of red and green. They feel like a hunter, wired, alive. They actually call this work. But at that exact same moment, there's a guy in a quiet office in Omaha just reading a book, sipping a cherry Coke. He's not watching a ticker, and yet, he is quietly winning the real game.
All right, let's break this down. On one side, you have the hunter. Their whole world is just a constant state of high alert. I mean, can you feel that pressure? That knot in your stomach, where your entire nervous system is just hijacked by the chaos of the day? But then, on the other side, you've got the farmer. Their game isn't about the thrill of a quick kill. It's about the quiet confidence of planting seeds in good soil, knowing deep down that time and patience are going to do all the heavy lifting for them. So, I want you to take a second and be really honest with yourself. Which one are you right now? And maybe the more important question is, which one do you truly want to be? Because the choice you make here, it has consequences that go way, way beyond your bank account. We're talking about how well you sleep at night, your relationships, the very way you see the world. And this gets us to the really uncomfortable truth, the one Wall Street kind of hopes you never figure out. The farmer wins, not because they're smarter, but because they understand that the game is rigged. And it's not rigged by big institutions. No, it's rigged by your own biology. You see, day trading isn't a strategy. It's a trap. A neurological trap that's perfectly engineered to exploit your most basic human instincts. So here's how we're going to dismantle this trap, piece by piece. First, we'll dive into the dopamine trap that gets you hooked. Then we're going to expose the invisible ghosts and friction that are just eating away at your returns. We'll look at the million-dollar bet that completely humbled Wall Street, unpack the simple and powerful owner's operating system, and finish with the final scorecard, which, believe me, has almost nothing to do with money. All right, let's kick things off with part one, the dopamine trap. I mean, why is your brain, this incredible survival machine that's kept us alive for thousands of years, so perfectly wired to make you fail at short-term trading? Well, the answer isn't in your spreadsheet. It's in your brain chemistry.
Now, this is the key mechanism. Every single time you make a trade and see that flash of green, your brain gives you a little hit of dopamine, the pleasure chemical. It's the exact same reward loop that gets people hopelessly addicted to slot machines in Vegas. Psychologists have a name for it: variable ratio reinforcement. You get just enough unpredictable wins to keep you pulling that lever, always chasing that next high. So let's be crystal clear about this. You're not investing, you're gambling.
And this quote just brilliantly shows why Buffett's thinking is from another planet. He's not playing the game of speed and dopamine hits. He's playing the game of gravity and actual value. The day trader is in a 10-minute sprint, completely fueled by adrenaline, trying to outrun the market. The investor? They're in a 10-year marathon, letting the powerful current of the market just carry them forward.
Now let's move on, because this is where it gets even trickier. Let's say, just for a second, you could somehow become a Zen master and control your own psychology. Great, but guess what? You're still not playing on a level field. You're fighting ghosts in the machine, invisible forces that are designed to slowly and silently drain your account. So we have to talk about this crucial idea called friction. Imagine you're a Formula One driver. You're laser focused on that finish line. But what you don't realize is that your fuel tank has this tiny, almost invisible leak. With every single lap, you're losing a little bit of fuel. That's friction in trading. It's an invisible tax on every single move you make. And this leak, it comes from three different places. First, you've got the spread, that tiny difference between the buy and sell price. Second, commissions. Your broker's got to get paid. And third, the real silent killer, taxes. Every time you sell for a profit, you create a taxable event. Now, on their own, each one seems tiny, right? Like a single drop of fuel. But over hundreds, even thousands of trades, it's not a leak anymore. It's a hemorrhage. It is literally death by 1,000 cuts. But friction isn't even your only invisible enemy. Oh no. You're not just playing against other people anymore. You are playing against high-frequency trading algorithms. We're talking about supercomputers built by actual physics PhDs, designed to spot your order and jump in front of it in the blink of an eye. That comparison right there is no exaggeration. You are fighting a drone strike with a spoon. And this is exactly why Buffett's distinction here is so important. In the short run, the market is a voting machine. It's a wild, chaotic popularity contest. It's driven by fear, greed, and those super fast algorithms we just talked about.
That's where the hunter lives and dies. But over the long run, the market becomes a weighing machine. It eventually tunes out all the noise and measures the true underlying value of a business. So you gotta ask yourself, are you trying to win a popularity contest, or are you trying to measure real weight? Which brings us to the ultimate proof. This is a story so powerful it should be required reading before anyone is ever allowed to open a trading account. This is the story of the $1 million bet, and how the simple act of doing absolutely nothing utterly humiliated the self-proclaimed smartest guys in the room.
So the stage was set back in 2007. Warren Buffett makes a public bet for $1 million. His bet was that a dead simple, low-cost S&P 500 index fund would beat a hand-picked portfolio of super sophisticated, high-fee hedge funds over 10 years. And what a decade to make that bet. The clock started ticking right before the 2008 global financial crisis. I mean, you couldn't have designed a better stress test.
Now, to really get what happened next, you have to understand this weird little glitch in our brains: loss aversion. Just think about it in your own life. The sting of losing $1,000 is way more painful than the joy of gaining $1,000. It's true. Your brain literally interprets a financial loss like a real threat to your survival. So when those alarm bells went off in 2008, what do you think the traders did? They did exactly what their instincts screamed at them to do. They panicked and sold everything to make the pains stop. But Buffett, he operates with a totally different mental model. He calls it Mr. Market. He pictures the market as this moody business partner. Some days, Mr. Market is euphoric, and he's offering to buy your shares at crazy high prices. Other days, he's completely terrified, and he's offering to sell you his shares for pennies on the dollar. The trader tries to guess his mood. Buffett just ignores it. He saw the 2008 crash not as a crisis, but as Mr. Market having a total panic attack and putting the entire store on a once-in-a-lifetime sale. So, what was the final score after 10 long years? It wasn't even close. It was a blowout. Through the worst crash in generations and the slow, grinding recovery that followed, the boring old S&P 500 index fund delivered an average return of 7.1% per year. And the elite hedge funds, with all their frantic trading, their insane fees, their genius managers, a pathetic 2.2%. They weren't beaten by a smarter strategy. They were beaten by a patient one that just got out of its own way. And that brings us to the solution. If the game of trying to outsmart the market is just a trap, what's the alternative? Well, it's what we'll call the owner's operating system. It's a system so simple, it's almost boring, but it's so powerful that it's practically invincible. Buffett's partner, the legendary Charlie Munger, just said it best. The big money isn't in all the activity, the buying and selling, it's in the waiting. Now that sounds so simple it's almost insulting, right? But it's in the waiting that almost everyone fails. Our dopamine-addicted brains, they crave action. This operating system is designed specifically to fight that urge.
And here it is, the core of the system, dollar cost averaging. This isn't just some tactic, it's a way to hack your own psychology. By just investing a fixed amount of money every single month, no matter what the scary headlines say, you turn volatility from your worst enemy into your best friend. When Mr. Market is panicking and prices are in the toilet, you automatically buy more shares. When he's euphoric and prices are through the roof, you automatically buy fewer. You're no longer trying to predict the rain. You're just planting a seed every month, rain or shine.
Now, this number on the screen, this might be the most important number in this entire discussion because it reveals the true secret to Buffett's success. It's not about being a genius stock kicker. It's the insane snowball effect of compounding. A staggering 99% of his massive fortune was earned after his 50th birthday. Why? Because that's when the small snowball of capital he'd been patiently rolling for decades finally became an avalanche. And that leads us to our final and honestly the most profound point of all. We've talked about strategies, returns, psychology, but the final scorecard, the one that really truly matters, it isn't measured in dollars and cents. It's measured in how you live your life. Let me tell you about two guys. Jesse Livermore was maybe the most brilliant trader who ever lived. He made and lost entire fortunes, living a life of manic highs and absolutely devastating lows. He ended his life broke, alone, and completely broken. Then there's Warren Buffett. He got rich slow. He lives a quiet, happy life, surrounded by people he loves, doing work he actually enjoys. One of them played for the adrenaline rush. The other one played for a lifetime of freedom. And that's really what this all boils down to. The hours you could spend staring at charts, stressing over every little tick, riding that dopamine roller coaster, those are hours you will never, ever get back. It's the one thing you can't buy more of: time.
So the choice to be a hunter or a farmer isn't just a financial decision. It's a life decision. It's a decision about what you value most. So the final question has nothing to do with your portfolio. It's about your life. How will you spend yours?